Lady Luck has dealt an absolute hammer blow to, well, Scotland's chances of winning the Six Nations Championship and the optimism of every Scotland fan, because their captain, Sione Tuipolotu, is out of the tournament. A pectoral injury means he's had to have surgery and he will miss the championship. I guess as well, you can't help but feel for the bloke. He did so well leading his team through November, and it's a British and Irish Lions year, and these injuries will be felt even more keenly because of that. You know, players get very few opportunities to represent the ultimate. I mean, the ultimate jersey that any player from the British and Irish Isles can pull on is the British and Irish Lions jersey. And you just hope the Sione Tuipolotu gets back and fit in time for that. He's going to miss the Six Nations Championship. There's big matches to play for Glasgow ahead, and hopefully he can return and play some part in those. But you would hate to see this have a knock-on effect of seeing him miss the British and Irish Lions, because the guy was a shoo-in for the tour, and, I mean, in a lot of people's books, was almost a shoo-in for the starting team as long as he stays fit. He is not fit for the Six Nations, and that is a hammer blow, not just for Scotland, but for the tournament. Last year, we were without Antoine Dupont, and there were some other big names that didn't play in it as well. But Roman and Temak as well, for example. There were a bunch of players, and injuries always happen. But what this means to Scotland is significant, and that's what I want to talk about on this video. Your thoughts in the comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, because one of the things that made me so excited, and still is making me so excited about the 2025 Six Nations, is that there are 4 legitimate contenders. Now, Ireland and France are deservedly the 2 favourites, and I expect one of those 2 to win the championship. However, Scotland and England, if they manage to pull some performances together, are definitely capable of winning the title. Not saying they're favourites, not saying I predict that to happen, but they're capable. Just on his own, Sione Tuipolotu having to miss the championship blows a massive hole in Scotland's chances. I mean, as I've already mentioned, one of the form international players, a key cog in an absolutely dynamite combination with Hugh Jones, that Tuipolotu. He provides a physical threat which holds defences and creates space for players out wide, guys like Duhan van der Merwe, Blair Kinghorn. Gives Finn Russell an easy out if he just needs to give it to someone who can truck it up. I mean, he's absolutely massive for them. And if it couldn't get worse for Scotland, it did, because Scott Cummings is also out. Now, I was working at the Harlequins Glasgow game at the weekend, and Scott Cummings went off in the first half, and I was stood in the tunnel, and Scott Cummings had a sling on with like this, some kind of plastic thing just resting under his arm, and he had a big pack of ice on top. And I looked at that, and immediately, instinctively, you say, he's in a sling, he's got this protective bit of plastic shielding his arm. That's a fracture then. But the fact that he sat and watched the entire game made me think, oh, maybe it's not that bad. But clearly it is bad enough that he misses the championship. And again, as with Sione Tuipolotu, I hope it's not too serious, because Glasgow got big games ahead, and it's a British and Irish Lions year. So, Rory Darge and Finn Russell are co-captains. I wasn't a big fan of the co-captain thing when they did it last year, and it felt like that was another reason why Sione Tuipolotu being out's a massive thing, because it feels like Scotland had their leader. And I do feel like, and if you've played rugby, you'll know this is the same, a sort of lack of clarity around leadership. I don't think it helps. I think I'd have preferred if Gregor Townsend had said, Rory Darge, you're my man. Or Finn Russell, although I have to say I think Finn Russell is better when the pressure of captaincy isn't on his shoulders, and he can just go and do what Finn Russell does. So as for the 12 position, let's have a look at it. So, I mean, that combination is just amazing, and you're not going to be able to replicate it. Massive shame. But the softener, the thing that will make it a slightly softer blow for Scotland is the fact they do have really good players in that position. Stafford McDowell for Glasgow and for Scotland has stepped in. He's not Sione Tuipolotu. He cannot do everything that he does, but he's a really good player. So is Tom Jordan, who could slot in there. Very versatile. He could play 10, 12, 15. And Rory Hutchinson, who hasn't had that many international opportunities, just such is the strength in depth. But in the Premiership with Northampton Saints, he plays that position regularly and looks really good. He is a classy player. But there's just not that focal point physically with any of the players. I think Stafford McDowell may end up getting that job because he plays with Hugh Jones regularly for Glasgow, and because he is that bigger guy and can provide that physical focal point. But I mean, of course, Dan Lancaster, the saviour of Scottish rugby. Maybe Dan Lancaster is the man. Get Dan in. Come on, Gregor. Get Dan Lancaster in. On Scott Cummings, another, there are two partnerships in the Scotland team which just kind of, I don't know, just kind of work. Well, actually, if you count the back row trio as well, Jack Dempsey, Matt Fagerson and Rory Dars, there's another little combination that just works beautifully. But that's why Scotland have done really, really well. They've got these combinations that just work. And Scott Cummings and Grant Gilchrist, another combo that just works at international level. Fortunately for Scotland, they do have Johnny Gray coming back in. But Scotland have a good 23-man squad. They have a really good starting 15. They don't have a great wider squad. And when you look below Johnny Gray and who's going to be on the bench, they've got promising youngsters, but they don't have anyone that you'd be really confident against the biggest teams coming off the bench and making a big old impact. And that's where I think the injury to Scott Cummings could really hurt them, is in the last 20 minutes of games where Scotland have regularly, sometimes their performance has dropped off, because in November, for example, they didn't have Johnny Gray coming off the bench and lifting it again. So that's a big shame. But they're not alone in the injuries. It's worth just rattling through the fact that lots of teams in the Six Nations are without significant players. England, the two big ones, Sam Underhill and Emmanuel Faye-Waboso, both out of the tournament. Both would be starters, you'd feel, in a strongest 15. I guess the difference is between England and Scotland is Sam Underhill goes down, massive blow, but Ben Curry, Tom Curry, Ben Earl can play 7, and there's guys like Henry Pollock that aren't even called up. So England's player pool means that it's not such a big concern. Same with Emmanuel Faye-Waboso. He is absolute dynamite, and I'm not sure England cannot replace him. But when you've got guys like Caden Murley, Tom Roebuck, Ollie Slightholme, you've got options. And yeah, that means it's not the same level of hammer blow that it is for Scotland. And just to mention, not saying they are out, but there's talk that Jamie George could maybe have an injury that keeps him out. He's got a hamstring injury which is being assessed. Alex Mitchell might be just a dead leg, but he went off against Northampton. Alex Coles went off for Northampton as well. So ones to watch. But England have got injury problems. France have got injuries. Charles Olivon, massive loss, because Alexander Roumas is also out. He should have been on that list. Tavita Tatafu, maybe the solution for them at tight head prop long term. He's out. But the biggest one is Gail Fickou, because they've got a very inexperienced bunch of centres, and Jonathan Donty also out. So France have got injuries too. Wales have as well. Their skipper Dewi Lake is out. Sam Costello, one of the few fly halves they've got that Warren Gatland's prepared to pick, he's out. Griffin and Elias are more backup players, or well, Griffin was starting through November, but anyway, not such a hammer blow. Italy have got Louis Liner, not many injuries. Ireland might be the only. Again, tell me if I've got this wrong. Let me know in the comments. But I think they've got a clean bill of health. Touch wood for the players that are in the squad. Does that make them? Is that another reason why they're favourites? They're actually getting players back rather than losing players to injury. Of course, it's a long attritional tournament, so here's hoping everyone stays fit. But for now, I think we can agree that is a massive shame just for the bloke, because he seems like a really good guy, and I hope the surgery goes well, and I hope he's back soon. But for Scotland in the shorter term, looking ahead to the Six Nations, bad news. Right, videos keep coming in the channel, so hit subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.